Hello guys, it's Peter from PS Sound, and here we are again in my demo vehicle. And in this video I think I'm going to talk about why I have mid-bass up on the dash. There are many people who are interested in it, and also why I still had to run the speakers down in the door, so the front end is 4-way. And before I start to break it down, give you the reasons why all this happened, I think we have to make something very clear here in order to understand the whole story. And it's a little bit Wikipedia. You can all find how your ears detect direction. But just to highlight one part, that basically lower frequencies, with longer wavelength, diffract sound around your head. So it forces your brain to focus only on the phasing cues from the source. So basically, under like 1 kilohertz, but especially under 300 hertz, it's vital to have the same phase response from each side of your stereo system. If you have a dip in your response somewhere, which is caused by a reflection in the car, and a certain range in that frequency range is out of phase, your ear can detect it the easiest. Why is this important in this setup? So basically, when I first had a sort of conventional 3-way setup with mid-bass down in the door, a 3-inch or 4-inch mid up at dash level with a tweeter, stage height was pretty good, but it was never solid. It always pulled down towards the mid-bass in the door, because I had a problem with the mid-bass in the door. Within 120 and 160 hertz, I had a cancellation, which never made it possible to integrate the mid-bass to the mid perfectly without pulling down. 95% of people wouldn't hear it, but then those 5%, especially judges at competitions, they can detect it, especially when you have certain tracks with instruments like, let's say, a cello on the right hand side, which has a big body, and the response of that instrument reaches down way below 100 hertz. If the integration between your mid and the mid bass is not perfect, they can tell that the instrument is not well focused, and it's not coming from one point, it's coming from 2 points. It's coming from your mid and your mid bass. So I had to realize that I had to do something with it, so I tried to find a different location for the mid bass from the door, which is down there. And most people would go for kicks, but in this car it was pretty impossible to find space in the kicks. In some cars, big American cars, or like most European, like you can find Mercedes, BMW, and a few other, where the kick space is huge. You can even put in like a 10-inch speaker with a bit of modification. Yeah, it's great. But in this car, in this Honda, it was a no-go. So I had a problem in the 120, 160 hertz range from the door, and I had to figure out how to fix that. Once I even had to demonstrate it to a client. I tuned his car, and he didn't understand what I was talking about until I demonstrated it to him. So basically I played sine tone. I think in his car the problem was at like 130 hertz or so, and the cancellation was so big. We were talking about, like, it caused like a 20 dB dip, and you can't EQ that. You can't EQ, whatever, 12 dB into it and expect the, your curve to come back and become more linear. It's not gonna happen. Once it's cancelled out, it's cancelled out. It's a null point. So when I was playing 130 Hz to him from right hand side door, and when the door was open, it was in focus and not cancelled out. It was loud. I try to describe it easily. So basically, you could hear it nice and loud. And as soon as you shut the door, that tone and the level just disappeared. It was like it wasn't even playing anymore. Once you open the door back, it was there. You shut it, it was gone. So that's when he also understood what I was talking about. Going back to the dash. So basically, as I couldn't figure out any other way where to locate the mid bass, I had to give it a go. And to make space on right hand side, I had to relocate the speedo. And I was hoping that I would get a very solid response from up there, even down to like 50-60 Hz if I built enclosures. So that was the reason why I built sealed enclosures. Once the enclosures were built, then I could finally test the system. And unfortunately, it's not something you can predict. You really have to physically build it in order to make sure that you get 100% results out of the test. So once the enclosures were built, the most important thing was to get rid of that phase problem I had down from the door, and that was great. That was gone. I didn't have that problem anymore, and hence the focus in the lower mid-range now in the car is fantastic. It's it's super solid and it's up high dash level. However, many people who have mid-bass speakers up on the dash, they all say that cabin gain is a very, very tricky thing, and you don't get much of that. You don't get much cabin gain if the speaker is located up there. So under 100 Hz, it's tricky to get the same level, the curve that you want from your system. Even if the speakers play down to 40 Hz, but not with the right level, under 100 Hz, it's like a shelf. It down to 100 Hz, it's nice and linear, and then it drops off 6 dB, and then carries on to 40 Hz. But then, in that range, even linear wouldn't be enough. So even if it was linear down to 40 Hz, that wouldn't be enough. You would need a raise. The further down you go, in the frequency range, the more you need in level, because that's simply how your ears work. If you have a system which is linear down to 20 Hz, and if you listen to any music, everything would sound really, really weak, big lack of bass. So once I faced the problem that under 100 Hz, the mid bass now doesn't have the right level. I could tell that I needed front subs each side, because yes, I have a front sub there, and I was talking about that before, but it's difficult to integrate a front sub from that side to there. It's easy to integrate that to that mid bass, it's fine, but let's say when you have like a cello or anything else, a big instrument playing on right, you can't get that last octave under 100 Hz to come from there. It's, well, no, you can't. Without detecting that the sub is there, you can't do that. You can fool many people, but not the judges. So hence I still had the speakers down in the door, and then I thought, let's give it a go. The system had enough channels to run them, and at the moment the speakers down in the door play just a very, very narrow range as a dedicated kick bass. So where the 6.5s roll off up on the dash, they are fine down to like 90 Hz, then those speakers take over. People also mention that, you know, it might not be the right enclosure size, it might not be the right speaker up on the dash, that's why they don't play low enough. But it's not true. they have pretty much bang on the perfect enclosure size they need. And I have the same speaker in the door, exactly the same speaker, but you know, from down there you have the right level down to like 35 Hertz. They play solid bass from down there, but up on the dash it's not coming under 90, 100 Hertz. This is it about why I needed the speakers up on the dash. I'm sure I could talk about even more, but you know, if you ask questions, I'm sure I can highlight even more about the reasons why it all happened. Now you can also see that it wasn't intentional to build a four-way front end. It just happened this way. At least now the system works very well, but then yeah, now it's a bit complicated to have two kick bass in the doors, a front sub and a mid bass up on the dash as well. Yes, it sounds very difficult, and most people would never even try to tune it in, because it's quite a task. I like it, but yeah, I try to make it a bit simpler, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to replace the 6.5s in the doors and try to make enclosures for 8-inch subs each side, so then hopefully I can also get rid of the glove box front sub. So instead of, you know, trying to integrate 5 speakers within, you know, 40 up to 150 Hertz, I will only have to play with 4, well, only one less. But we will see. I like experimenting, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least I learn something from it, and that cannot be taken away from me. And actually I really enjoy that. So yeah, this is it. I hope you liked it, guys. If you know, you've seen me talking about my setup or anything on YouTube, then please check my other videos and please subscribe, because I try to share more and more with you guys in the future. And yeah, hopefully you also enjoy it.